Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Flora Fresa and I love books, fashion, arts and crafts, and games. Today, Monday, we'll be discussing books, specifically the book called See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. Heads up, there's spoilers ahead. I might do this more chronologically than by thematics, but as the episode progresses, we might change how we do things. Thank you for listening to me, and let's begin. So, See You Yesterday is a story about Barrett Bloom, who is starting college, starting university, and the first day, normal. Nothing happens. I'm a little bit like, okay, perfect, yeah, that's how it should go. But then she sets a house fire in a frat house and burns a lot of stuff. No one dies, thankfully, but she doesn't have the best luck. She already wakes up that day and her like broken friendship from high school is her roommate. It's going wrong. It's the point. For some reason, the next day she wakes up and it's Wednesday again. Nothing, absolutely nothing has changed. So she just goes through it, a little freaked out and also thinking maybe I need a coma, maybe I've hurt my head, maybe it's a dream, maybe it's my subconscious protecting me, etc., etc. And it starts to happen until she meets Miles, who has she has met before, and realizes Miles is also in a time loop, which sets them off into this little adventure. But before we talk about their adventure, let's talk about what happens before, which is the physics class given by Miles' mother, Dr. Okamoto. So, Dr. Okamoto is, in my opinion, a really good teacher. Like, she's obviously interested in the subject, happily ready to learn, and encouraging their students to ask one of the most important questions anyone could ask in a situation, which is why. It's not the only important one, obviously. You need to add why, and you need to add what and where, etc., depending on what you're specializing with. But knowing the why of the things, the reason of the things, will always be important no matter what they are. I do see the slight parallel it's making to the story. Like, it's quite obvious, the little nod it's making to the story about being like, oh, keep asking why, and Barit's a journalist, and oh, maybe physics isn't for you, but there's something you could learn, and she's will go through a time loop in no time. But yeah, what else? I did read the poem, like, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Absolutely lovely. I'm not the best at analyzing poetry, but I really liked it. It was good. That's my point. I don't know if on the star we meet other than those four people. Like, it's Barrett, Miles, Lucy, and Dr. Okamoto, and that's about it. So, let's actually dig into the characters a little deep. Obviously, the two main characters are Miles and Barrett, and I like them. I think they're well done, mostly for the most part. I understand the decisions they take. The conflict makes sense, like there's things stopping them both from doing what they actually want to do. So that's not a problem by me. And also, I find Barrett extremely relatable, like extremely so. The way she's like a little chubby, the way that she's like, oh, this is a mess, the way that she's able to talk to people and she's self aware about it. She feels very real. It's my point. Although I must admit, I did find it a little bit annoying at the start. It was like, who tells their roommate who they are not talking about anymore, who used to be their best friend, about their masturbating habits? Like, that's weird. It's just like there's a time and place for stuff, but like it really didn't matter too much at the end. Um, the way that parties are not her scene, also very relatable. Miles is a little bit more of a square character in their personality, at least. Like, he definitely is more scientific, more self-centered, etc., etc. Like, it's obvious they will benefit from learning from the other through the journey. So that's good. So once they figure out they're both in the time loop, Miles tries to do it a little bit more scientifically. He's doing research, he's going to the library where Gladys is, etc., etc. Meanwhile, Barrett is like, we should carpe diem the fuck out of this shit. And to some extent, I get it. I'm like, uh, the way to carpe diem something is like usually why people get trapped in time loops in the like she says pop culture and media, and it's true. It's like they need to become better people. They need to solve something they have left behind, almost like ghosts, etc., etc. So they go to the library, they study, then they do something that isn't studying. Like, I mean, the puppies come way later in the story, but like you get my point. So they decide that they will do it half and half. Have research, have investigation, and have like just fun. And they go in like these little small adventures that they start to break down to some extent. Meanwhile, they are also dealing with their own personal feelings. Barrett is dealing with like the bullying she suffered in high school from the joke of someone taking her virginity. And Miles is dealing with the fact that he has a brother in rehab and the expectations his parents have of him. He says, like, I would love physics, I want to study physics, but I would love to double major, or I don't remember some minor, in film. And they start to connect. And I think the tension is like really well written. Like, I think the pace of the book is really good. And you're like, oh, they're falling in love into each other. They are starting to be more open, more vulnerable. The way their Jewish identities play a part is like, I find it endearing as well. Especially when Miles is like, okay, this is our makeshift Shabbat. I will not say that I am a connoisseur of a lot of Jewish traditions, if any, but it is great how that moment connects them even more, and how the little things and experience they've shared, which include their culture and their religion, connects them as well. And they start to connect each other until we get to the point where we're like, oh, the kiss at the museum they go in Canada, or I think, and they see the flash mob and he gives the roses and they kiss, and you figure out, oh, Miles have like they kissed before, and I understand why Miles panicked and was like, I am not telling Barrett this yet, but still, I think it should have been resolved better in the book. I don't know what you all think. I just wanted a little bit more of detail in that part, like once the resolution came to that. But yeah, that's the chapter where they die as well, and like that is awful. I feel awful for them, but also it seems like Barrett is like a little bit on her own world in the way she sees herself and sees things. Because Lucy is quite empathetic when she's like, "Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" Like not as much as a bad person as she believed she is. And well, once they reconcile, they're like, okay, we're friends, even to the atmosphere is charged because it's charged. And I understand why in that extent, like this person you've lived all of these things through, that you share all these things through, and none of those things are set anywhere in stone from anyone else to realize what's happening. And that person made a mistake, and you cannot even complain if yeah, the energy would be charged no matter what you do. So they're like, we're friends, even though we were obviously have gone through so much together that we don't feel like friends. But it makes sense. I would have liked to seen a better resolution to like I love the ending of the book and we'll get to that, but I would have loved to see a little bit more. But yeah, they fight. Barrett goes through like a little bit of a wild revenge phase. She bleeds, but she managed to find Dr. Devereux address and they go to visit her. And I explain anything to her, like what's relativity, parallel universes, the two theories that she had, etc., etc. I did love the description of Dr. Devereux's house. I was like, that's how I want my house to look like. And the fact that her cats were called Ada Lovelace, one of the first mathematician computers, And also, but it was fun. It was good fun. And they managed to explain this to her, and they leave, da da da. Um, and they just do stuff. They're like, let's go to the beach. And the beach scene might be one of my favorite. Got start from like, oh, vulnerability, that communication, that to this point, or like it reaches the climax of what they've been wanting to do. And as soon as they reach the room, um, they make love. Because you could say they have sex, but they make love, they communicate, they understand each other, they make sure they are comfortable. And like, sex needs to be communication. Sex with communication is simply not good. Through the book, I think, um, yeah, okay. So they figured it out. There's like, oh, Lucy randomly manages to get one of Barrett's socks back, and they realize, oh, Olmsted, that's the connection point. So they go, and Miles stops the lift at some point, and they're like the elevator, and it's like, I can do this. What if nothing's right? What if nothing's wrong? Which here I understood Miles more. That when he didn't tell her about the keys, here I was like, that makes sense. He's scared of what's going to happen with his brother, with Bauer, etc., etc. Like that made a lot more sense. Still, they go through it, and it works. They are finally not on Wednesday, but on Thursday. Problem is, Bauer doesn't. I'm really sorry by my accents. I've been learning other languages, and like I just feel everything mixing. But yeah, Bauer goes to see Miles, and Miles doesn't recognize her. It ends well. Like she goes to the library with him, and she's like, "We did this, and we did that, and we did this, etc." But yeah, I think the theme that was present throughout the book was vulnerability and honesty. Like these two people are like, very close. They had things that happened in their childhoods, teenagehoods, during high school that they hadn't opened about with anyone else. And still, the universe put them in a situation where they had to say, yes, this happened to me in high school. This is something I struggle with. Thank you for being here with me, or things like that. Um, what else could I say? There are a lot of scenes that I loved. There are a lot of characters that I loved as well. But that's like the thing of the book. Now, the details that I liked. I like Dr. Okamoto, obviously a good teacher. I like Tok Devereaux, not only a good teacher, but also such an intriguing character, and that can help them there. Love her description. Lucy is really fun to see because all of her interactions are different. Like, obviously, this is triggered by Barrett's change because he doesn't, we know that the conversation with the RA goes the same every time. But it is nice to see how Lucy progresses and all of the background that she has. She's not completely a flat character, which I love to see. What else? It's interesting to see the story of Miles as well. The not Miles, Max as well, such as a similar situation to Lucy happens. And I think also that's really nice is the relationship Barrett has with her mother, Molly, because it is obviously connected and it is obviously such a nice point to where come back. Like Barrett feels sad, feels bad, she goes to her mother, etc., etc. And at the end of the story, they both learn how to be more, I guess, open with one another, open with other people, and just it seems fun, a good relationship. I like the book, 4/5 stars for me. Pacing was good, characters were good. I enjoyed it, devoured it. I read it on in a day. I do think though, uh, that the keys that was before should have been explored a lot more. I was like, that's a traitorous action for someone that has been living a month with you and you haven't been able to escape. What do you mean you've kissed before? And I would have liked to think a little bit more about the scientific part. I do understand it's like this is a romance book about people trapped in a time loop, not necessarily, but this is a book about people trapped in a time loop that fall in love, which is kind of different, but not really. But yeah, I would have to see like, oh, tell me more about the leaf, tell me more about etc. etc. I do know if the author has other books that which is which these thematics, which I might check out if I manage to get my hands on them, because I'm not really good at reading digitally. I prefer to read paper, but yeah. And it's also interesting just how it goes in general. I think that's all for the discussion. What did you think of the book? Did you like it? You didn't? What are your favorite parts? What are maybe the criticisms that you have to make for it? Yeah, just let me know if you'd like another book to do this with or something else. Thank you so much for watching.